Thank you. I just want to reiterate Larry's comment that with 9,000 detainees and 9,000 employees for a correctional center, corrections is really an industry in the United States which can really dictate policy, which can be problematic from a public health standpoint. Thanks to NIDA for sponsoring this project. I want to recognize my colleagues on it, Irene Coe from George Washington and Ann Kurth, who we just heard from NYU. So just a quick look at incarceration around the globe. This was an interesting article from the New York Times in 2008, which looks at prison population around the globe. And what you can see is the magnitude of the circle based on the country is equal to the magnitude of incarceration in that particular country. And it's a little hard for me to see, but the United States has the highest rate of incarceration of anywhere in the world. And with that, you get many people with HIV coming through corrections, and you get many people who are at risk of HIV coming through correctional facilities. So with that in mind, it's a very important public health opportunity to implement Seek, Test, Treat, and Retain. This can run the full gamut of STTR. HIV testing can be done in prisons, it can be done in jails, it can be done in community corrections, probation, parole. And I certainly would support routine voluntary HIV testing in each of those sites. HIV treatment can be prescribed in prison settings in particular, given the long lengths of stay, but also in jail settings. It's a little bit more problematic in jails because a large proportion of the population is going to be there for a very short period of time, but those who are there for at least several weeks can get access to ART. Importantly, linkage to care upon release is a focus. This is a time of high risk for people to fall out of care and to come off their meds. And then we certainly want to promote retention in community care as well. So our project, which is titled above here, which I'm going to briefly describe today, this is work that's ongoing, funded through the NIDA Seek, Test, and Treat initiative. Our goals in terms of this project are focusing on linkage to community care and adherence after release from a jail setting, so during community reentry. And then certainly we want to promote long-term retention as well. So we have two aims to the study. The first is we are adapting care. This is an acronym for Computer Assessment and Risk Reduction Education. We're taking the CARE tool and we're adapting it for use among incarcerated populations. I'll speak more about that in a second. And then in the second aim, we're going to conduct a randomized controlled trial using a combination technology-based intervention. So we're going to take the adaptation of the CARE tool, combine it with a cell phone text messaging intervention, which will be delivered in the community after release. And we want to improve linkage and adherence amongst jail detainees who are known to be HIV positive and are being released in Washington, D.C. So the CARE tool, there are several CARE tools. These were developed by Ann Kurth and colleagues. The regular old CARE tool is for HIV testing and counseling, primary prevention counseling. And then there's a CARE Pause tool for HIV positive individuals, and this provides counseling on ART adherence and secondary prevention. So it's typically delivered on a tablet or a laptop. When somebody enters one of the sessions, they log in and they can actually choose a counselor based on different avatars which are in the program. And then in the testing care version, they go through testing consent and a video on HIV testing instruction. There will be a detailed risk assessment, basically a CASI-based risk assessment, so substance use behaviors, sexual risk behaviors, and then they will get tailored feedback and counseling on their individual risk assessment, and the software uses skills-building videos to provide some of that counseling. And then they actually get a specific prevention plan for them based on the risk assessment that they can print out and take with them. So as this is kind of the basis for our study, in that we are taking the existing CARE Pause corrections tool, again for positives, and we are changing it to create something called CARE Pause Corrections. We've completed formative work to make these adaptations. This was done in Rhode Island and in Washington with HIV positive individuals who had recently been incarcerated, so we wanted to get their input. What do you think about using a tool like this? What should the content reflect, and so forth? So we have now completed new counseling content with new skills building videos, and we're really trying to focus the counseling on the aims of Seek, Test, Treat, and Retain. So we're counseling them on linkage to care after release. So what does it take to get into your provider? What are things you need to think about? What challenges exist? And then adherence to ART, what are the challenges of remembering to take your meds and getting your meds once you come out of jail? And then we'll continue to focus on reduction in risk behaviors in a general sense. These are some images from some of the new content that we've developed. And then we're going to create this combination intervention. So we'll take the CarePause corrections tool that will be delivered pre-release, and we'll combine it with a cell phone and text message intervention delivered post-release. And I think that's important because one counseling session pre-release may not be enough to have much of an impact once they get back into the community and they're faced with all the myriad of challenges that they typically do. So with the community side of the intervention, we hope to keep them engaged and try to promote the outcomes. In terms of the cell phone text message intervention itself, we will provide phones to individuals who do not have them. If somebody has an existing phone and they prefer to use that, we will use that phone. And then we'll deliver automated, customized text message reminders regarding appointments, so that will promote linkage, ART reminders for those on ART at the time, and then we'll continue to promote their CarePause corrections plan, which was created inside the jail, so that will be part of the content delivery. And then we'll use bidirectional text messaging, so we'll have these automated outgoing text messages, but we want them to let us know when they've received it, so we'll get a sense of the level of interaction with the intervention itself. And then in aim 2, we're going to test the efficacy of this combination intervention in Washington. Again, we hope to improve linkage is our primary outcome in ART adherence. Sample size will be 320, and this will be compared to treatment as usual. So this is all dependent on where you're operating. But in the Washington, D.C. jail, which is run by the city, treatment as usual essentially is discharge planning, hopefully an appointment to a community provider, and a 30-day supply of meds. So everybody will be getting treatment as usual, and then we'll be adding this intervention on top of it in a randomized fashion. And then outcomes, we'll be looking at linkage in the community will be primary outcome, and then ART adherence as assessed through viral load testing, and we'll be checking 12 and 24 weeks out from their release. We'll also be doing some cost analyses, looking at the intervention itself. It's not without expense, certainly, especially given the technology basis, but if it is found to be effective, what really matters to correctional departments is cost, in terms of what's the impact going to be on their bottom line. So that will be an important part of it. As I've said, this will be in Washington. Many of you know Washington has some of the highest HIV prevalence in the U.S. in terms of a city. This is somewhat older data, but prevalence ranges 3-ish% amongst the adult population. It's concentrated mostly in the eastern and southern parts of the city. The jail is located right about here in Ward 8. It's highly disproportionate amongst blacks, which is also reflected here from data from the actual jail where we will be doing the study. This is the central detention facility, as I said, run by the city. 18,000 intakes per year, so much, much smaller than what Larry was describing, which is a huge system. But this is a moderately sized jail in the U.S., but it only services the confines of Washington, D.C. Daily census of about 2,600. This is a recent estimate of HIV prevalence of 5.1% amongst those who are incarcerated, so very, very high. Disproportionate amongst blacks, as I said. Those who actually get to see an HIV provider inside the jail are likely to go on ART, so about 80% of those who do see a provider are currently being prescribed ART. So we've completed the formative work. We're putting kind of the final touches on the CarePause tool, and then we are submitting our protocol for the randomized controlled trial essentially now, and hope to get up and running by the summer. I leave you with this. So, corrections, there are a lot of challenges. We hope to improve STTR-related outcomes, but the recidivism, and Billy, I think, referred to the revolving door of corrections. It's a huge problem for this population. We hope that with improving health outcomes, there may be an impact on recidivism and trying to reverse that trend, which is so common. Thanks to NIDA for funding this project, and to colleagues at all 3 institutions, as well as our CFARs who are supporting this work.